Good morning, welcome to Beneath the Plates. I'm your host, Jared Elrod. And I just got down with a really long Marco Polo to a friend of mine, which it got pretty deep, pretty heavy with some topics and stuff. So with that, I want to try something. So I'm thinking I might add a quick little intro part to this podcast with just like some physical update or, whatever kind of update stuff of what I'm working on as I bring in more of my life. So I want to give a quick update on, which I got to give a little bit of backstory. So I started this weight loss journey. Some of you know, some of you won't know, depending on how long you've been listening to the podcast. I started at I don't know the exact amount, but like right around 360 pounds, probably, plus. So, probably if I had to pick an exact number, because I didn't weigh in right when I started, I would pick what I have a lot of time in this. I would guess the number, if I just had to put an exact number to the decimal, like my scale says, I'd pick 363.8 is my guess. I weighed in today. Oh, dang it. What did I weigh in at today? I don't remember the decimal. Hold on, let me look it up. I got my little V-Sync app. It had nothing to do with Vsauce, by the way. 251.6. So I have lost over 100 pounds. So yay me. I've officially crossed that threshold. Now, I think I've lost a lot more than that because I've also put on a good amount of muscle. So, but as far as the scale goes, the official record, I've lost just over 300 pounds. So hooray. So, yeah, I'm going to start doing more of those updates in terms of the fitness update stuff. I'm sucking with the gym, so not a lot to update there. And if you also follow the gym vlogs, you know that I've been sucking in the gym. So we are going to get back into that, though. I've just been really focused on the weight loss right now, and a couple of mental health things that I've kind of neglected the actual gym. So we got to get that back in the routine. It's spinning all the plates. It's like, spinning one plate is fine. It's trying to spin all the plates. So today, I want to jump into, this is going to be a two-parter because I'm not going to get it all done in one, I think. So I want to talk about, and this is not the first time I talked about this, and with this being a self-improvement / mental health / fitness podcast, a lot of these concepts I will talk about over and over and over. It's like Gary Vee says. He's like, I don't remember if it's 2 or 3. He's like, I only say like 2 things. I just say them over and over and over, hoping that one day, one time, the way I said it, it finally clicks and you take action. So there's only so many themes to talk about. So today I want to talk about the concept of modeling someone for success. It's like, I think like episode 3 of the podcast is about this. I have my origin story part 1 and 2, and I'm pretty sure the 3rd episode is about this. But I want to go into it a little bit. So this first one is going to be a quick recap, so you don't have to go all the way back to episode 3. Also because there's going to be some, new little points and stuff. And this kind of follows if you follow along the last few episodes. I've been talking about some of the stuff. So I'll kind of wrap that up, and then tomorrow's episode, we'll go into, I keep referencing the last 3 months and the last 6 weeks. I'm going to go into some more of that. I'm going to get really vulnerable and potentially make myself look stupid, but I don't care because I want to help you. And that's actually even part of the modeling. I realized the modeling I'm doing, I would be exposing some of this and putting myself on blast, not on blast, because there's a connotation of getting caught, right? But in terms of what I'm actually doing and what some of those changes are in real time, I've always had, in ministry, there's kind of a concept of you tell old stories, never current, and I get it. There's certain things that your congregation just doesn't want to know that you're struggling with. But with the mental health, I feel like this is a different category. And I feel like it would be a lot more helpful if I can chronicle the exact things I'm going through, a few weeks later rather than a few years later. So that's what the second part of this is really going to be about. So the modeling. I am running out of time. I do have a hard cutoff for this first episode because I have to take my dog to the groomer. So technically my son's dog to the groomer. Okay. The basic concept is you pick someone. So you have your goals. Let's start there, right? You have some sort of goal you want, and you kind of have an idea of where you want to go, and then you find someone who has achieved similar success, and then you kind of study their life and what they did to get there, and you get an idea of what it takes to get there and get some insights on that. So, for example, if you want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, by modeling him, you can be like, okay, how is my body different than his? So where are these expectations I'm going to have to kind of adjust a little bit because, like if you're 5'3" and he was, 6'3", I think? Maybe 6'4", but I think like 6'2", 6'3". Like you're going to have to realize there's, okay, so now that I've adjusted for that, what did he do? Oh, whoa, yeah. No wonder I'm not getting the results I want. If that's what he did, I'm not even anywhere close to that. Alex Hormozi is a good example of this where he had, friend, associate, client, consulting person, who needed help with his social media. And they sat down together and Alex was like, okay, what can I help you with? What do you need advice on? And the guy was like, our social media is not growing as fast as I think it should. We're putting, all this time and effort into it, and it's not really growing the way I think it should, and I see how fast you're growing, so, I want to see some tips from you. So Alex says, okay, well, at first, let's kind of frame this. Let's put things in perspective. And I don't remember the exact numbers, so bear with me if I slightly misquote this, but he's basically like, how many times a day are you posting? Or how many times a week are you posting? And the guy's number was something like 14, right? Like we're posting twice a day. And so, it's like 14 times a week. And Alex said, okay, just to put this in perspective, I post, and when he says I, it's like we, his team. He's like, we post, and it was something like 300 and something times a week or 400 and something times a week, right? And the guy literally was like, enough said. That's all he needed. That was the entire consulting. He didn't need to know about techniques, hooks, any trends. He basically was, oh, okay, well, I'm comparing myself to Alex, which is, a form of modeling. So it's like if I was modeling Alex, and I now realize the number one issue I have is that, I'm posting 14 times a week and Alex is posting, 300-400 times a week. There we go. I need to post more. Twice as much, 3 times as much, 5 times as much, 10 times as much. Until I can get up to that number, I don't really need to know anything else. I don't need to know what kind of camera he has, what kind of microphones they use, what do they edit their stuff on. He's like, I'm not even in the same country, much less the same ballpark as this man. So in the same way, you could look at Arnold and be like, holy crap, I'm going to the gym twice a week for 30 minutes. I just read what Arnold's workouts are. He goes twice a day, and you go through all the stuff and the amount of protein he was eating, and and then he got a job where it was a physical job where he was swinging a sledgehammer, so that counted as cardio, so he didn't have to do cardio, so all of his gym time could be right. You go through all the things, and you're like, oh yeah, no wonder I don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm putting in one 1/10,000th of the effort he is. I need to up my effort. And then I can worry about supplements and protein optimization and pre-workout versus, and all these different things, right? So in the same way, modeling does that for us. It also gives us clues, right? As they say, success leaves clues. For me, I take it a step further. I don't know how to talk about this without sounding weird or new agey, but in my mind, I think of it like, for me, it's energy. And when I say energy, I mean like that emotional energy. I don't mean like vibrations of the universe, or I'm talking about like that emotional energy, right? Like when I was in high school, I'd watch Dragon Ball Z and I'd get super hyped, super excited. And we'd watch, and like one of my favorite moments, even though he wasn't my favorite character, was after Vegeta defeated the android. Well, he defeated one of the androids, and then he's sitting there, and now he has another android to beat. think he ripped off, like the android had grabbed his wrist and was like absorbing his energy. And he like put his feet on his chest and he pulled and like ripped the guy's arms off. And the other android, everyone was like in shock. And he basically told the android, he said, well, are you scared? He's like, oh, don't be scared. He's like, for all you know, he absorbed all my energy and I'm barely standing. He's like, come on, throw a punch. He's like, you could take me out with one hit. He's like, I might literally be on empty. He could have absorbed every last ounce of energy I have, and I can't even take a step forward. He goes, let's see. He takes one step forward, and the android like gets scared and runs away, flies away, right? And then like everyone's like, yeah, you're so cool. Boom. And then Vegeta like passes out, goes out of Super Saiyan, passes out, is like literally like, I can't even move. I literally was out of energy. That was a bluff. I was hyped. I was like hitting my hands and my legs. I was clapping. I was, as they now call it, like stimming, basically. I was like rubbing my hands back and forth together. My friend Mark, I think I talked about him in a past episode. Or was that a counseling, like a conversation, not counseling, but like a conversation we're having. Pretty sure I talked about him in a past episode. Anyways, you know, and I realized he did the same thing. He'd get super hyped from watching these episodes, and he'd get all excited. He'd start clapping or whatever too, right? And so like there's this like emotional kind of energy for that. And I always remember wishing like before swim practice, like we could come in and watch like an episode of Dragon Ball Z and then jump in the pool and start swimming, because I would have had like all that extra energy and been in that awesome headspace. And you know, a lot of athletes do this. You see basketball players, football players, like on the bus, in the locker room, you know, with their headphones. There's like a famous Beats commercial about that with a basketball player, right, listening to their pregame music workout to get them in the zone, as it were. So I look at it as like energy like that. And so for me, I remember when I was starting my weight loss journey, and I know I've talked about this before, so again, this is a recap episode. It started off as basically, I only have 10 minutes, 11 technically, so let's get this wrapped up. It started off as like I had some like low goals, and a few months into it, I realized these are like really, I was struggling to be motivated. I'd go to the gym, I'd look in the mirror, I was fat, it seemed like this was gonna take forever, it just wasn't motivating. And I realized, well, it's because I have small goals. Like having my face be not as fat. Like I wanna be able to look in the video, like because I did a lot of video, well, I still do a lot of video stuff. It's like when I go to edit the videos, I want my face to not look so fat. Well, that's not that motivating of a goal. Also, it's not specific or measurable. I'm not really a big SMART goals fan. I'm a energy feeling goals fan. So I was like, that's not really motivating. Like, that's not hyping me up. When I'm in the gym, I'm not sitting there like, I really don't want to do this today. I don't sit there and go, wait a minute. I'm going to get rid of these chubby cheeks. I'm going to have a square jawline. Yeah, I'm so motivated. Like that wasn't happening. So I decided to set bigger goals. And then a couple months later, I made them even bigger, which, by the way, my original big goal that I was like, maybe it's possible, maybe isn't, I set at 275. About 3 months later, because I had these bigger goals, I was starting to get better results. I then changed it to 255 with the idea of then coming back up to 275 with like muscle. But I didn't even know. So my current goal is 235 and to go back up to 255 with muscle. So you don't know what you don't know. So I set this bigger goal and I needed someone to model. And at first I was like, I should pick someone who looks like me, or at least like the relative potential I could have. And I remember like seeing a comment about sebum. Someone said, just imagine there's someone out there like genetically superior to sebum who is like sitting on the couch eating potato chips, playing video games, like way overweight with like 40% body fat. Now, I am not saying I'm genetically superior to sebum, but I was like, maybe. I don't know, because I don't know my potential. I'm 6'7". Back when I was younger, I was always very fit. Things, maybe I am genetically superior. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. But I could be, and at least I don't have a lot of the like diseases and conditions that he has that makes him struggle with his bodybuilding. So maybe I am. I don't know. And I'm definitely sitting here at like 40% body fat, eating potato chips and playing video games, except for, I think I talked about a couple days ago, instead of potato chips, it was pretzels and cream cheese and Monsters. So it inspired me to try. Now, he didn't really fit into as a good model because for a bunch of different reasons, the energy wasn't there. So then I was like, well, let me see some guys. I had already decided I wanted to grow out my hair. I hadn't, I just, at that point, it was still short. I just stopped cutting it. And I was like, oh, Chris Hemsworth would be perfect. He's Thor. I like superheroes. He's got the long hair. He's like only a few inches shorter than me. This would be perfect. But the energy also never really clicked. I didn't get that emotional excitement, right? I think it could be the example of like, and I hope this isn't too crude, but this will definitely click for like 90% of people. It's like having two people, whether based on whatever your sexual attraction is. So I'm going to do it from my perspective. It's like there being two women, and one is objectively much hotter than the other one. Let's say one's a 10 and one's like a 7.5. But the 10 has nothing in common with you, right? Not your style, not your personality type, none of that stuff. Versus the 7.5 is all those things, right? Has all the things that, right? You're going to pick that 7.5 unless you're just an idiot. And so in that same way, I'm like, okay, there has to be like a connection here, right? There has to be, just because, Chris Hemsworth is that 10, only a couple inches shorter, has an amazing physique, also has a superhero alter ego, and I'm foreshadowing for tomorrow's episode. So I ended up landing on The Rock, because I went through several guys, and I finally found The Rock, who, in a lot of ways, like, I'm not Polynesian, I'm not half black. I despised WWE when I was younger. Like, even John Cena would have been a better pick when it came to that. So I was like, but there was that connection with The Rock. And I began to model him, and then he came out, it was announced that he was training for Shazam. I'm like, there we go. Now we got the superhero alter ego. I'm now realizing that's like a thing too, because that'll make more sense. So this is definitely laying the groundwork for tomorrow's episode. So I decided to pick The Rock. I Googled his height and weight. I read wrong information that he was 6'6" and 285, which I've come to realize he is not that tall. But that was what the internet told me, or some comment or something told me. So I'm like, dude, he's only an inch shorter than me, and that's how I came up with the 275, because I'm like, well, I don't really want to be quite as big, nor do I think I have the potential. He is, Polynesian. He does have those super awesome genetics. So maybe I can't get quite that big. So that's why I came up with the 275. I'm like, I'm an inch taller and 10 pounds lighter. If I'm going to have a shoot for the moon type goal, that's probably a good one. And I think it was about 3 months into having that goal, I started making so much more progress. I was like, let's shoot for the dark side of the moon, okay? And so I moved it down to 255. And then let's get down to 255, get nice and super lean. I had no clue what 255 would look like. I definitely underestimated what it would take to get super lean. So I said 255, I'll be like skin and bones, and then I'll go back up to 275 by putting on some muscle, and I'll look like a slightly smaller version of The Rock, right? So I kind of imagine myself being kind of what his physique is now. Now he's dropped some weight, and people are calling him Pebble, which is stupid because he has an amazing physique. But they're mocking him and calling him Pebble. That was kind of like my idea, right? And obviously I've now blown past that, and I've hit 255, and I'm keep going, right? I'm at 251.6, I think I said this morning. And so that was for a long time, for years, The Rock was my model. I modeled after his stuff. I read everything I could. I watched a bunch of his stuff. Still not a big wrestling fan, though I did do a Wrestling with God sermon series here. When I moved here, that was a lot of fun and went over really well. A few people didn't like it and eventually left the church, but we got 20 new people, so it's okay that 3 people left, numbers wise there. So definitely did a bunch of stuff. And then I found it kind of shifted. Oh, and like every year for my birthday, it would be a rock movie marathon. I'd watch 2 or 3 of his movies. Like, it was like a whole thing, right? Shazam was like huge. I watched his Instagram training stuff like every day. I'd listen to motivational videos of him as I was working out. I remember going to the movie. I don't watch movies more than once. Like, very rarely do I watch movies a second time. And I think I saw Shazam at least twice in the theater. I think other than Star Wars, I don't know if I've ever seen a movie twice in a theater before. I watched it 2 or 3 times in the theater. Within the first month it came out, I had seen it like 3 or 4 times. So, because I was streaming it, all that stuff. I don't know how long the stream came out later, but whatever. Like, in a short period of time, I watched it numerous times. Like, I love the movie. I love that character. And then once I got here in Nevada, it kind of shifted. I found Alan Ritchson. Well, I watched season 1 of Reacher back in New York right before we left, and I was like, okay, that's even closer to what I want to look like. And then I kind of found him on Instagram and realized he's kind of cool. And then I found out he was bipolar, which, by the way, I did not know I was yet. And then later I found out I was, and so that was even more of a connection. So, Alan Ritchson is a big one. I like, a bunch of stuff with his acting career, and a bunch of his stuff, the fact that he's a Christian, and once a week produces like a Bible study video. That was, so oh my goodness, even more in alignment with The Rock. So Alan Ritchson, for like the last, I've been here for 3 years. That started after being here for a little bit. So I don't know, somewhere between, depending on where you start counting it, whether you count that Instagram video with the minerals that he did that I found, or if you count when I watched, season 1 of The Reacher, somewhere in between 2.5 and 3.5 years. And off and on, there was another character who has come into center stage, and I'm going to talk about that tomorrow because I had to take my dog to the groomer. So with that, I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow, or in the next episode, which will happens to be tomorrow. And you guys have a blessed day.